Well, hello and welcome to another recording of the Social Media Newsroom. My name is Pascal Fintoni and I'm back for more news, rants and raves by your favorite social networks. I say we because, of course, I'm joined by the one and only Natalie 𝗍𝗵𝗍 from 𝗁𝗁 Media. Natalie, welcome back.
Thank you so much for having me back, Pascal. Always a pleasure.
Thank you very much. We've got lots planned. As for our regular viewers and listeners, you know that we have 4 segments. We're going to do a spotlight this time on LinkedIn. And what we're going to do, Natalie, is look back at what's been happening this year with regard to the updates. LinkedIn's almost like, this platform where on one hand it giveth, but in the other it taketh away. And it's been really quite hard sometimes to understand what was going on. But also it's been, for me, very often a source of disappointment. So we'll look at spotlight on LinkedIn and some announcements. Then we'll move on to the second segment, the one tech or tactic to try out to really take your social media marketing to the next level. Segment 3, the one I look forward to, is what we call important, not important. I've done my research. I've got some news and announcement to share with you, Natalie, and we're going to ask you, do you think it is important or not important? And final segment for us is film marketing, social media special, and you chose the movie.
Yes, and it's another one of my favorites, although it does reveal age a little bit. It is the iconic Gremlins.
All right, hang on a minute, Natalie. I can hear the fans already saying, well, it was released in 1984. So how are you going to talk about social media?
Well, I was a proud owner of a Gremlins VHS that I watched many times. So it was a huge part of my childhood on repeat growing up. But I was, just for the record, 1989 for me.
So what we're going to do, as we've done previously with your other selection, we're going to imagine that Gremlins was released this year because, in fact, it is its 40th anniversary. 40 years ago, it was released. So we're going to go back and of course, remember what it was like in 1984, but then we're going to fast forward to 2024 and imagine that you and I are in charge of social media at Warner Brothers. How would you like to do that?
Yeah, that sounds really fun. Let's do that.
And then we'll come up with our own suggestions and ideas for the campaign for Gremlins. But of course, within all that jesting and kind of reminiscing, these are ideas that you can use, all of you, for your own businesses and services. But let's begin with our very first segment, Spotlight on LinkedIn. Okay, so let's go back then to the start of the year with LinkedIn. And happily, there's been articles out there. We've got sources like Social Media Today, LinkedIn themselves, with their official kind of newsletters and blog posts and other platforms. So starting in January, there was this announcement, and you can understand why, being the start of the year, whereby job seekers will be given greater features to showcase their skill set and expertise, but also to highlight job preferences and that kind of things. So that was the good news. The bad news was for advertisers, they did away and literally, quite bluntly, cancelled the lookalike audiences, this idea of matching your prospect with the database of connections on LinkedIn. And people did demonstrate. They said, but don't you worry, it will be replaced with some clever AI stuff. And I think it's been a mixed results. And then we had this almost copycat thing about sponsoring posts, which we've seen before on the Facebook and the likes. If I just quickly then summarize for you February as well. So they almost kind of have this routine where every February they release the sales resource for B2B and what they call the sales playbook. But another bit of bad news, they took away, or did they, the creator mode. And that was very confusing because people say, well, I have it, and it's still there. So you didn't take it away. And they said, no, we'll take it away. We're giving it away, but it doesn't need to be selected. Therefore, it's on all the time. It's like taking it away. And honestly, that went on for weeks, didn't it, Natalie, where people were so confused.
Absolutely. It was, am I a creator? Aren't I a creator? And what we've landed up on after all of that is now we are all content creators on LinkedIn, which arguably we all were to begin with. So I don't think we're any further forward in terms of the feature as a defined feature. But what it does mean is that most of us get all the benefits of creator mode without having to make the switch into creator mode. So essentially, it will have rejigged our profiles a little bit. So for everyone, the about section goes up a little bit, the featured section goes down a little bit. But what that means is actually our profiles become a bit more dynamic. So if you haven't checked your LinkedIn since February, log in and have a little look at what your profile currently looks like, because it could be some of those elements of text have shifted order, and you might want to put some of your intro sentences back up to the top. So just have a little look at the physical layout of your LinkedIn page. There's also some cool new features on there, just in terms of kind of being able to showcase your work. And crucially, if you had previously switched to creator mode, it would have forced you to get rid of your initial button, which is the connect button on LinkedIn, and it will have instead given you a follow button. Now everyone's got the opportunity to switch between the two. So for most people on LinkedIn, even if we are going full content creator mode, actually the most important thing is getting connections rather than followers. Now, that's perhaps not true if you are a 𝗧𝗵𝗵 or a Steve Jobs of the world, but if you are a individual within a business or running your own business, you actually probably need those human-to-human connections, because what that means is not only are people able to see your posts, but you're able to see their posts too. So you're actually in more of a network, which is the whole point of LinkedIn. So definitely have a little look at that. If you previously made the switch to a creator profile, go and switch back. If for any reason you are really unsociable, or you are absolutely blowing up and you are the next Steve Jobs, you can go on and switch that connect to a follow button if you would like to as well. But day to day, as long as that LinkedIn profile looks nice and clean and good for audiences in terms of info layout, and you've got your preferred button in place, there won't be too many further surprises in the created, non-created debate.
I would agree. I mean, I'm literally planning to go through my whole LinkedIn profile again and do it like I would recommend my clients, which is piece of paper, pen, and resketch your layout. Think of it as a website. That's what I do. And reorganize the information. I'm thinking I need to shorten this. I need to maybe add more media. I need to take it out. So there needs to be a proper rethink of the of LinkedIn. And talking of rethink, so before I give you the March and April kind of rundown, there was really a lot of, and I understand why, a lot of upset people about the change to the LinkedIn algorithm. And I'm seeing more and more evidence that it has happened. So it wasn't like a threat or a promise, depending which way you look at it. So this idea of LinkedIn algorithm is now designed in such a way that you can have something that you posted months ago still doing the rounds with your connections. And I'm saying this particularly around events where it's so obvious that the event has passed. It was a promotion at the time, book your ticket, get your seat reserved and that kind of things. But it's still doing the rounds. Recently, with our good friend Roger Edwards, we've got the 2 Geeks in Marketing podcast. We see people liking, commenting on podcast episode from 2-3 months ago, not the most recent one. And this is really challenging people, because we do have a sense of using LinkedIn to message people about something that has some element of recency, but also something that is has time limitations. And I'm wondering whether they're forcing their hand for that evergreen content. Where do you stand with that?
I think you're exactly right in terms of encouraging users to post content that is more evergreen, or certainly less hyped about a particular specific moment in time. So it's something that we can all be mindful of when we are posting on LinkedIn. And as we see the algorithm shift, become clearer in terms of just pop onto LinkedIn, have a scroll through and see the types of posts that you see, it actually might mean that we need to have a little bit of a rethink about how we personally post on the platform. So if you are going to a key event that's going to be really prominent for your business, perhaps only posting once or twice from that event, perhaps at the start of the day and at the end of the day, rather than something that's a bit more of a continuous feed of, I'm at this seminar, now I'm at this seminar, now I'm at this seminar, perhaps giving a bit more of an overview in kind of chunkier blocks, so that those posts not only become a bit more substantial, they've got a bit more to them that audiences can still engage with, even if they see that post well after the event itself. I know this from experience from the Okoko office. We were at a business expo, and those posts have been getting engagement long after I would normally expect that engagement to have dried up on LinkedIn. So really, really interesting to kind of see it in action. I think it probably means that we all need to be putting a bit more effort into that content strategy. Again, are we all kind of content creators now? I guess we are, whether we like it or not, on LinkedIn, in terms of, are we telling cohesive narratives, and have we got themes that we are bringing out through our series of posts, rather than viewing it in a very much this post, then this unrelated post, then something else. And that almost that kind of approach to LinkedIn, where it's just whatever you feel like posting at the time is just what you post it. You might not have particularly, consideration for what's coming up next week and what happened last week. But actually, when there's a big algorithm change like this, it probably forces us all to think, okay, where are we going? What have we done? And how do we kind of join these up and start to make this more about a story that we're telling through our series of posts, rather than a random sentence post that we throw out every now and again. So it's getting that cohesion behind it in a way that will snowball that engagement. Arguably, if we're putting out content that's more evergreen, it has more benefit for us long term. So we win, LinkedIn wins, but we've sort of got to reassess how we use the platform and play the game, because when the algorithm changes, we've got to change with it.
Yeah, no, and there we are, and maybe indeed those kind of more anecdotal series of content needs to go on the different platform altogether. It's just fascinating. So, oh, by the way, February also was the month where I finally went ahead and got a verified LinkedIn profile. It
Oh,
was so hard to do. Have you done it? I mean, it's like, I feel
no,
like I was
every
being
time. Every time I go to do it, I'm like, oh, I'll do it now. And then it sort of it goes through that portal page, and I'm like, oh, I'll just look at my emails instead. How was it end to end as a process for you, Pascal?
It was horrendous. I felt like I was being questioned by MI5, to be honest with you. And the only reason I persevered, because I think I was waiting for something to be delivered that day, and I had a passport at hand. Because literally, the steps is, you start the process, you enter a few details, and then they ask you to download an app, if I'm not mistaken. Then you have to use the app to scan your passport, as long as it's got biometrics. And I was a bit nervous, thinking, do I really want people to have that data? But there was some reassurance that they would not keep it, and so on. It was really, really hard work. So honestly, I never felt like I deserved that badge. It felt like I'd gone to, like one of those school sporting days, and I'd run really, really long and very hard, and deserved that plastic medal. But there we are. I'm not suggesting that it's going to help at all my, my reach, but it's going to help from a credentials point of view, as you will see in a moment when I give you the March update. So from February, things went really odd on LinkedIn, and you and I reported this. So first, to begin, this bizarre named thought leader ads. So this idea of anybody could sponsor, that is to say, spend your hard-earned money to promote someone else's content. Why not? That was March update. And the second update was, I think it was US only, or some territories, but LinkedIn is thinking of adding some element of games for company accounts, so that employees can play games and keep score with each other. And if you think that March was very, very odd in terms of an update, let me tell you what's been happening in April. So practical stuff like messaging on company pages, I like a lot. This idea of creating the UTMs, if you're sharing links and content out there. But LinkedIn is testing some territories, a dedicated video tab. I would like that, certainly for people to be able to find me more rapidly. And then we have this bizarre invitation, I'm sure you've had them before, of being invited to comment on an article, and you are one of 1,000 people commenting on the article, hoping to get some kind of a reputation building. And I'm going to finish on the two bizarre announcements from April. This idea that soon, you could have literally AI avatars with their own LinkedIn profiles, publishing content on behalf of companies. And if that wasn't weird enough, we're going to also be given the option of a premium company page. We will take you to, nearly to the tune of $1,000 a year to have some extra AI features and other, kind of additional bells and whistles. And I'm still thinking, all this is kind of intriguing and why not? But it feels as though LinkedIn still not cracked the code to help small business owners and small team leaders to really grow the business in a way that is akin to networking, or you mentioned attending an event. Or am I being just a bit harsh?
I think you're being quite fair, really, because LinkedIn has always kept company pages often a little bit of a silo. They are difficult to grow audiences on, they're difficult to get visibility on. Previously, through not having some of what you might argue is the most basic type of kind of functionality, like the ability to message a company, often users haven't found them all that relevant. If you think about you as an individual within business, you probably much more value your direct personal connection. So LinkedIn's always kind of played to that, and given better visibility to kind of individuals and just sort of background visibility to businesses. I'm not surprised that they've jumped on the bandwagon for trying to monetize almost in a bit of a Twitter, Facebook verified kind of style of actually give us some money and we'll give you some extra features for your business. How relevant these features are sort of remains to be seen. Anything AI that people are advising is, oh, there's an AI tool. There's probably another, and dare I say, maybe even better AI alternative out there, because LinkedIn's focus is being LinkedIn. So if it's bringing in AI tools, it's probably not focused on them being the absolute best in the market. So it's highly unlikely that it's going to have these absolute industry leading AI kind of support features. Certainly not anything that you couldn't find out elsewhere. So for me, the tools to grow your business audience is probably the juiciest bit of this offering. However, growing your business audience on LinkedIn has always been a huge amount of graft, and particularly with the idea of you are growing it with the right connections, because you could run a competition on your LinkedIn page that asks users to follow you on LinkedIn. You could give away an Amazon voucher, but are those going to be the right people that are genuinely interested in that thought leadership piece when you post it out? So it's a little bit tricky in terms of getting the right audiences. There are already paid advertising tools for growing your LinkedIn page that do let you target certain levels of seniority, and they do sort of have all those elements in. And typically they perform reasonably well if you've got the kind of right targeting in place. So it'll be interesting to see what more LinkedIn's going to offer, because if it's going to offer me the opportunity to pay $99 a month and also throw a ton of money at ads to grow my audience, that's less of a great offering. If I'm a business out there and I'm already spending $100 a month, maybe $200 a month trying to grow that audience, and actually suddenly there's some great tools here that absorb some of that spend, and maybe I can cancel a couple of my AI software subscriptions over here, maybe that brings the balance in. But I'm yet to be converted on this. I think there's a lot of let's just say hype behind it, in terms of suddenly if you pay a fee, all of your LinkedIn visibility problems and engagement issues will be solved and AI will help you do everything fantastically. It maybe perhaps seems like it could be too good to be true as an offering.
I think it is, and so listen, everyone. I'm actually a big fan of LinkedIn. I'm kind of being critical here for no other reason that on behalf of the customers that I help and that you help, that we mentor, there are some essentials that we need that are sometimes not being given. And it's still an anomaly to me, it's still an enigma to me, that the fact that LinkedIn is owned by Microsoft. How is it that we don't have a greater integration with Microsoft Office products to begin with? That would be very, very helpful. So you can have a bit of database marketing going on. I think suddenly Microsoft also owns Skype. I'm thinking, how don't we have literally a LinkedIn video a la, can Google Meet and Zoom and that kind of thing. So to me, there's some things that I'm wondering, are they still operating in silos? Are they taking their time, which historically we know LinkedIn has done? Because the list of what has been happening over the last 5 months is unimpressive. I mean, it's kind of tinkering around the edges, and I think that well, I know that they listen because people make comments, and you can literally hear from the engineers working at LinkedIn. But if they have a plan, I'm not seeing it just yet. And what we have are small business owners, but also a large organization, trying to understand how to work around the algorithm, which I think kind of colors your judgment and the way in which you approach your strategy. Because all we want, any one of us, is for our connections to get to see the content that we publish and put a lot of hard work into creating, and be discovered by like-minded, individuals. And it feels as though it's harder work than it ought to be.
I think that's all, again, more than fair, because I feel like LinkedIn, it tries lots of different things. Some of them stick, some of them don't stick. Some of them, I don't feel like it gives even sufficient amount of time, because famously they launched LinkedIn Stories, which they launched in the middle of a pandemic. We were all in lockdown. No one used it. The people that did use it posted quite boring videos. No one watched them. It took the feature away. However, I feel like genuinely, if LinkedIn Stories launched tomorrow, it would be actually a feature that people would use, and they would find content and they'd be able to narrate their journeys. And particularly if the algorithm's getting more long form, this kind of, shorter form, more immediate video content. We are hearing rumors around LinkedIn daily videos, which we think might be kind of maybe a type of reels, because the world needs more short form video content. And we see a lot of kind of examples of that. So I would personally quite like to see that, but again, it falls very much into that category, Pascal, of where they're not quite doing a LinkedIn thing. They're sort of doing a version of what everyone else is doing that competes in a slightly different way. But because LinkedIn is a very distinct space in itself, we haven't really seen another social network go after that purely. This is a business-led platform. It just sort of doesn't quite give us any cool features that would be little LinkedIn exclusives. And, like you say, the ability to video call someone on the platform rather than schedule your Zoom on LinkedIn and then go over to Zoom and kind of do that, when it does have that Skype functionality. Particularly when Skype probably itself needs a bit of a boost. We recently redid our business cards in the office, and we got some old ones out, and then we got some old ones out, and they had the Skype logo on, and we were reminiscing, thinking, God, imagine putting the Skype logo on a business card today. But there you go. And it's amazing how quickly it changes. And I just feel like maybe LinkedIn is still yet to find that one bit that really makes it the platform that's known in particular for that, rather than, it's a business platform for networking.
Absolutely. So everyone, listeners and viewers, let us know about your views on LinkedIn. What would you like to see change? What would you like them to do for you to support your marketing and sales activities? And very, very quickly, a big thank you to all the people that have been researching, capturing the different updates from January to April. I'm thinking Social Media Today, TechCrunch, 𝗬𝗺𝗃, and all those organizations. It's been making our life much easier, because I'd forgotten, a lot of those updates. So it's been absolutely lovely. But let's move on to our next segment, which is the tech and tactic to try out. Now, in this segment of the show, we recommend one tech or one tactic to try out to really elevate your activities on social media. So, Natalie, have you gone for a tactic or for technology?
I have gone for a tactic this month. So recently, Meta has unveiled the Meta Marketing Summit for 2024. This did happen live, but when I say live, it means that it was a live broadcast of a series of pre-recorded seminars. So don't worry if you missed it live. You have not missed the hype and the atmosphere of an event. You've simply missed the premiere of a pre-recorded video. And arguably that makes it much easier, because you can be fussier and choosier when you go through and you catch up. You don't have to watch them back to back. You can just pick the topics that are most relevant to you. Now, a big focus of the Meta Marketing Summit for this particular year has been, I'm sure, no surprise, AI, and particularly AI features around meta advertising. And alongside the Meta Marketing Summit going live, it has launched a load of cool new AI features. If you use Meta Business Manager and Meta Ads Manager, you will have seen a few of these pop up, and they are not being shy about the implementation. A lot of these are quite, bells and whistles, and they come up and they look all nice and shiny. And you'll notice that your ad campaigns are suddenly giving you AI recommendations on how to make it better. Now, the AI motivation is clear. Facebook Facebook and Meta want better performance for your ads, but spoiler alert, they also want you to spend more money with Meta. So take their advice with a little pinch of salt, because just because a robot machine is telling you to do it, it doesn't mean that they've got your best interests at heart. However, that said, these ads see a lot more ads than we do, so it means that actually they do have that mass learning. So these suggestions are always going to be worth consideration, but they might not be worth direct implementation. So tactic of the month: catch up on all of the AI ads news if you run Meta ads. There's one clear kind of seminar that's most relevant within that, but there's a ton of other stuff. And also, if you're interested in your sports, because we've got a big summer of sports coming up, there's some great bits in there about kind of community engagement around sporting facilities and events. I appreciate that's a bit of a curveball from the AI, but I'm throwing it in there anyway. And next time you are setting up your advertising on Meta, actually take the time and take that extra 20 minutes or so to explore those new AI features in a little bit more detail, because there's some great elements there around audience matching, a little bit like removing that lookalike audience, though Facebook still has them. But there's great ways that actually we can use AI rather than set our targeting now on Facebook. We can use AI to pick up the keywords in our ads, and then we can deliver directly to those audiences, which is quite cool. But from a marketing perspective, what we're finding at the moment is you're probably better with a little bit from column A, a little bit from column B, so still keeping that quite human feel in there. However, it's all there to be explored. You can now have AI rewrite your social media ads. You can have AI add music to your ads with a selection of suggested music. But have a little look through, make sure that you understand all of this, because ultimately AI implemented kind of blindly can destroy a campaign, but AI implemented very, very well can just really take it to the next level. So tactic of the month is get stuck in with your Meta AI systems, particularly in Ads Manager.
Thank you so much. That's brilliant. And I missed it completely. So am I right in thinking that the famous F8 conferences are no longer, they don't do them anymore?
Well, we haven't had any official confirmation from Facebook that they are going away, but we do sort of look out for them in the Coco office, because we always like to see the 𝗬𝗵𝗵 kind of appearance and see how he's kind of evolving. Particularly any recent footage you've seen of him, he might have had a glow up in there. He's got a tan. He's got like a slight longer hairstyle at the moment, looking arguably a bit more human than he has ever before. We are probably going to see something featuring him, because this was very much sort of heads of Europe delivering interesting, but in some areas quite dry presentation. So rather than have kind of cool, fun panel discussions and kind of, bits, it was very much sort of a talking through features. So I think this might have been our boring grown-up one, and I think we might get that more exciting, dynamic one perhaps later in the year. I can only hope. However, from a marketing perspective, there's some absolute gold in there. So don't let the dryness put you off. But maybe when these are kind of 13 minutes each, maybe watch one, have a little break, come back to it. Or my top tip, do one a day, and then you work through all of the content, but you can then balance that with more fun in the office as well.
Of that, make it part of your training and development. But yeah, for everyone, the F8 is the kind of the name of the annual conference where all the head of products from Instagram to WhatsApp and even the wearables, as they are called, presented their plans for the year, and therefore you and I could discover, kind of hints about what was changing, and we could advise our clients accordingly. And if memory serves, you and I reviewed the very first one in 2016.
Yes, and it was just like yesterday.
So listen, I was nearly going to go for a bit of tech, but actually inspired by a recent workshop on CRMs of all things. But interestingly, CRMs have evolved, customer relationship marketing, which are now called conversations and relations management tools, because social media is a massive, massive part of that management relationship, not just the email. That's kind of the 2010s kind of era. So we're having this conversation with the group, and people were saying, you have to be seen and heard being helpful by answering questions. And then we were talking about it and said, well, I've got some questions on my website. We had a look and I said, yeah, this is the FAQ section. It's not quite what I'm mentioning, but it's still a good start. I'm talking about articles and videos and podcasts if you want to. But I said, but more importantly, when was the last time you updated your FAQ section? And it was like silence in the room. So I said, I know, it's hard. So my tactic for everyone listening, please update your FAQ section on the website with the very, very latest kind of answers to the very latest questions, and then share that on social media as a content series and be creative. Try carousels, try videos, try all sort of ways to make sure that those FAQs are not missed by anybody. But in the context of evergreen content, particularly if there's questions about not just your services, but essentially general advice on a number of things, I think that it's very, very important that you remember that you can use the social channels to share information that is currently available on the website, but not all social media users will be happy to become a website visitor. So two birds, one stone, as they say, update the FAQ on your website. That's going to help your credibility and conversion rate, but also share that on social media about being creative and finding different ways to share that, not just a bit of text on the post. Happy with that?
Yeah, that was super wise.
Okay, let's speed things up, if you don't mind, with our next segment, the important, not important, just after this. So for this segment, important, what I've done is research the latest news and announcements from social media platforms. I'm going to ask Natalie to react and state quite simply, is it important or not important? And we'll do some deep diving on a couple of those. So number one, WhatsApp is rolling out a new French design, including new animations and a larger prompt to drive more usage of the Meta's new AI chatbot. Important or not important?
Ooh, important. I think a lot of businesses will benefit.
All right. TikTok is testing a new feature that will allow creators to invite up to 5 other creators to collaborate on a post. Important, not important?
Important for audience cross share. Very important.
Instagram has a plan to encourage more posting by introducing the one-tap capture and send option called Instagram Peek. Users will be able to share a quick, unfiltered snaps to friends.
Oh, not important. Even between friends, you might need a second or third take of that image.
And Twitter has announced another AI element for advertisers. Soon, you'll be given the option to create ads for specific audiences for the X campaigns using descriptions, aka prompts.
Not important. I think the remaining 5 Twitter advertisers probably won't benefit hugely from it.
Snapchat plans to provide advertisers again with data on the estimated carbon footprint of their ads, including the energy consumption of serving and hosting the adverts.
Important for bigger businesses that will take a more kind of holistic approach, perhaps less important for smaller businesses that are running smaller campaigns anyway.
Meta is introducing a new AI-generated label option on its post composer to help users identify AI-created content across Facebook, Instagram, and Threads.
Important. Anything that can help identify AI content and get us used to spotting it and knowing what works and what doesn't is great.
Creator event in New York last week, Instagram CEO 𝗵𝗵𝗄 shared that reels over 90 seconds can hurt your reach and distribution.
Oh, important. The algorithm rules all, so don't be hurting yourself in the algorithm.
And finally, Meta is making all its of the AI tools available under its Advantage Plus Creative tab in Ads Manager. These include enhanced text and image generation, creative expansion, text overlays, and the centralized collection.
Important. New tools are always cool, and finding them all in one place makes it so much easier.
Okay, let's go back to TikTok and this idea of collaborating with other creators, which I know other platforms have tried, including YouTube, but not to great success. But this seems to actually be a bit of a breakthrough for all of them.
Oh, absolutely. I think being able to kind of take your audience to another creator and almost share audiences, if it is this purely collaborative piece, means that actually we've got the benefit of growing quite quickly, particularly if you are collaborating with someone who has a lot of trust and an audience that has a slightly different demographic to the audience that you hold. Actually showing trust and synergy across there will bring a huge amount of kind of credibility to the campaigns that can be collaborated on, and can kind of come out of this option of having so many kind of content creators working together on a singular piece of content. It opens the door for brands quite significantly, because suddenly you can get not just one content creator influencer kind of collaborating, you can bring multiple voices into the conversation. It means that diversity kind of wise, we can actually get a lot more representation into one singular element, and it really does sort of tap into that tribalism of TikTok, which is that, you know, sometimes if we are looking to solve a very specific problem and a brand's like, hey, I've got that product that solves this problem, we're a little bit wary of that because the brand is the voice that's saying it. But actually, if we're looking to solve a specific problem and we've got 5 experts from that particular field talking about how helpful that particular product can be, actually the trust and the kind of element there, it's just going to be a little bit of a breakthrough in terms of cutting through noise and actually delivering tangible messages to audiences, or just having fun and actually saying like, hey, we post crazy TikTok challenges, and so does this other guy over here, but he does it in a slightly different way, and we're going to collaborate and get a bit of competition going, and our audiences are just going to get more enjoyment and joy out of it. So I think it's going to be good for the platform. I think it's going to be good for creators, good for audiences, and yeah, it's definitely something new that we've been talking about in terms of are we seeing enough innovation. This is definitely something that we have not quite seen before in this exact manner.
What I like about it is this idea of, you know, what they've done cleverly, TikTok, is remove all frictions around content creation as much as possible. On occasion, it gets very busy and demanding to learn about all the filters and all the trends and so on. But if you compare that to the attempt, you know, from YouTube, from Meta, and all the others, it was always harder to collaborate because the creation bit was always more onerous time-wise. There was, you know, people did the takeovers, as they call them, but that was because there was no other way to collaborate seamlessly. So if TikTok have done it, it's exciting, but also it could mean that future platform will follow suit.
No, absolutely. I think it'll be one of those ones where we're seeing rollouts, and maybe in 5 years' time, LinkedIn will even have their own version of it.
I know that in the green room you shared that you had some additional news about TikTok, something really quite interesting.
Yeah, so it was very suited to this specific recording, Pascal. I couldn't even believe it when one of my team flagged this up. So thanks, Nicole, for kind of flagging it with us. But TikTok have published some landmark research from 𝗧𝗵𝗲 on the platform. So this is a TikTok article, but it was conducted by a third-party 𝗧𝗵𝗲, actually looking at the influence that TikTok has in terms of driving audiences to the big screen. And this is actually research that they conducted over quite a long period of time. Normally we see these sort of quite instantaneous stats, but actually looking at 12 big landmark releases from last year, so from 2023, what 𝗧𝗵𝗲 actually found is half of the users who bought a cinema ticket did so within a day of seeing a film ad on TikTok. So we're actually seeing TikTok as perhaps not the sole driver, because anyone that's seen any marketing material for any cinematic launch knows that it's absolutely everywhere to the point where you can't move for it. But it certainly has its hand in what we would refer to in a marketing sense as almost the last touch. So often if you have got marketing that is cross many channels, last touch can win in terms of the types of advertising and the types of media that you see as most valuable, because this can be the sort of I would love to use a more kind of positive phrase, but it's the straw that breaks the camel's back in terms of audiences are like, fine, I'll buy a ticket, I must see it. So it's very much sort of in that closing element, and perhaps positions TikTok as a little bit more of a driver of action, which is going to be a really strong metric around any type of paid social advertising. So the numbers are really strong. We'll pop the link in the kind of show notes, and audiences can have a little look through that in a bit more detail. But in terms of hang your hat on social media stats, it's a biggie for sure.
Well, it's interesting. You can see the evolution because, if I'm not mistaken, actually at the time of recording, the Cannes Film Festival had just started, which is kind of interesting. And last year, if not the year before, TikTok with a major sponsor and player doing live streaming, doing live reporting. So I think they're kind of involvement in the world of sport, in the world of entertainment, and so on, is getting stronger and stronger. And it's just fascinating to observe, but also for us to have insights about audience behavior. We spoke quite a bit about Meta, obviously. You mentioned the conference in the previous segment and so on. But you reminded me once again in the green room that this is quite an important year for them.
Yes, 20th anniversary of Facebook, and my how it's grown. But yeah, it's when we say 20th anniversary, we do mean that from the actual inception of kind of Facebook. And I know that it's sort of gone through many forms within its kind of 20-year, I guess, climb to the social media behemoth that it is now. Really, for most audiences, you probably have memories of Facebook kind of opening up maybe around 2014. So I think certainly for us in the UK, as like a UK audience that has been logging in, it's probably been since about 2014 kind of onwards. But it has snowballed over the years and grown substantially bigger. But it will be interesting to see how Facebook celebrate this incredible milestone, because in a world of kind of competing social networks, while it does have the mass audience user base advantage, whether it tries to leverage its longevity to try and win a little bit of trust later this year will be interesting to see. Obviously, 20 years has not been without its scandals for the platform. However, it remains strong and it remains the biggest mass user base in terms of active users. So I think it's here to stay. It will be very interesting to see how they celebrate, and maybe you or I'll get an invite to that party, Pascal. I could +1 with you.
Well, I think that's definitely what we should do. But the thing about the evolution and the highs and lows, and there was some definitely highs and some definite lows. Well, it's still going on sometime with complaints and that kind of things. But there's always been, I think for me, that adventurous attempt at trying to find a way to connect audiences and connect people to information. So I've got to respect that. But I still have a massive question mark on threads. My customers ask me, and my reaction as a very mean trainer, mentor, saying, "Well, can we finish what we started on LinkedIn first before you begin anything on threads?" But where are you with regard to your own clients and your team?
Yeah, so Threads is a nice to have at the moment. It has recently just announced that it has surpassed 150 million active daily users. So that's big audiences on Threads. I'm not quite sure what they're there for, if I was going to speak kind of super frankly. But it is interesting to see that users are there. We have seen recently Jack Dorsey almost disown kind of Blue Sky entirely and then back Elon completely out of the blue in terms of X is a kind of free network, but Threads still operates in that slightly unclear space of it's not really sure what it wants to be. It's not a Twitter alternative. It's not really an Instagram alternative. We see a lot of users at the moment just syncing their content from Instagram. If you are going to sync from anywhere, sync from Twitter, please, because it was set up to be a Twitter X killer rather than an Instagram secondary platform, because Meta doesn't need an Instagram that doesn't work as well as actual Instagram. But it's interesting that they have not dropped it. They continue to push it. And perhaps while, Blue Sky doesn't necessarily capitalize on the audience that it has, and perhaps while X eats itself and becomes this increasingly polarized space, to phrase it diplomatically, particularly with moves towards X video, which I know Elon has been posting a lot about, and he's bringing in voices like Tucker Carlson, and that's perhaps not necessarily a voice that I need in my life. It almost feels like that space is kind of changing, and if that space changes enough, actually audiences that want the alternative are going to be forced out of that space. The difficulty is that we perhaps have the alternative over here on Threads and we're not choosing to go. We need to be pushed out the door, which X may well do on its own, but the other option is that Threads gets a lot more interesting quickly and we all choose to go in a way that we're sort of at the moment not very happy on X, but we're staying there because you know everyone who's already there and you can have good chats still away from that main timeline. So it's existing in a strange space. I think its potential remains strong. It just needs to get a lot better, a lot quicker to get that audience up. And certainly from a business perspective, because there isn't really that audience quite there in a way that they want to engage with businesses, we're seeing the ability to post, the ability to get visibility, but not really the ability to get engagement, and certainly not the ability to get tangible leads in a way that we can do so on other networks. Therefore, those networks win when it comes to, you know, effort, focus, and content first strategies.
Yeah, thank you very much. And so that's my position, or complete, what you set out to do with the existing platforms before you move on to the next one. I understand, have sympathy for the feeling that you're missing out, or the feeling that you could be capturing additional leads or prospects and so on. The likelihood is they're not on Threads at all. So, be careful. And I think for me, there's definitely also a reminder that whilst we may have the common language of English, what's happening in the US is unique to the US as well. And you've got to be very, very careful sometimes about what I call the marketing of marketing, where Threads and many others, for that matter, including LinkedIn, will present obviously a strong case for a particular adoption, but you've got to go, but that's obviously US centric as information and as marketing. And we in Europe are behave very, very differently. We have different wants and needs completely when it comes to social networking. Super. That was excellent. Thank you very much. We have reached the final segment of our show, which is film and marketing social media special, just after this. Right, so you chose Gremlins from 1984. Let's watch the trailer.
Steven Spielberg presents Gremlins. 𝗬𝗵𝗄𝗃 has a nice home.
Billy, is that you?
Yeah, Mom, it's me.
A nice job. A nice girl.
If you're not doing anything this Thursday night, maybe you'd like to go out on a date with me?
I'd love to.
And loving parents who are about to give him
You're gonna like this. No, don't shake it. We're gonna have to open it now. It won't wait till Christmas.
the most unusual gift he ever got.
What is it?
It's your new pet.
Come on, Barney, be a good dog. My dad gave it to me.
But there are a few things to keep in mind. If you expose it to the light, you may hurt it. If you get it wet, it will multiply.
All that from water? They got wet?
Yeah, plain water.
And most important, no matter how much they beg, never, never let them eat after midnight. Because when they do, they change. They become clever, mischievous,
What's going on here?
and dangerous.
Gremlins, huh? Little monsters.
Right.
Hundreds of them.
Well, I don't know, maybe thousands.
They've been here too. Billy, what are these things? Where do they come from?
Look, I know it sounds crazy, I know. But in a few hours, you're gonna have a major disaster on your hands.
Gremlins, directed by Joe Dante. They'll be expecting you.
Now, this is how you should be making trailers even nowadays. This movie, I'm going to say that I'm nearly picture perfect. I've watched it so many times. But I remember watching it, I think it was VHS cassette, in fact, as you mentioned, when we started the movie. I remember watching it thinking, I shouldn't be laughing at those people being killed by the gremlins in different ways. But this is just so well made. And for me, the standout scene is when they are at the cinema. and then the movie starts, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and they all stop messing about, almost like a bunch of kids at the cinema, right? The kind of Saturday afternoon screening. They all stop messing about, and they all start to sing the song. I mean, I cry with laughter every single time.
Oh, it's iconic, and definitely the finest and earliest example that I can really think of that horror comedy genre, that, like you say, should I be hiding behind the sofa cushions, as I'm sort of like having a little chuckle to myself, and usually about not particularly savory kind of on-screen action as well. I mean, even famously, we've got the anecdote of why Christmas is hated as well, which is perhaps one of the darkest backstories in any film that's sort of vaguely aimed at children.
Interestingly, so Roger and I actually reviewed the marketing of 1984 a few years ago now, when we launched, our previous podcast, and we did discuss actually that from a marketing point of view, there was some back and forth between the filmmakers and producers saying, literally, let's take this scene out because this is just too somber. It's more as morbid as it comes. And actually, Joe Dante, the director, and I do believe supported by Steven Spielberg, say it has to stay. It has to stay as part of the experience of watching the movie. But I would agree with you. But it's violent. I mean, the Gremlins really do harm people and kill them even. And there's bits where it's funny. I mean, I think evil Mrs. Deagle, who's basically shooting out the window on the stair lift, is very, very funny. But all the time, it's not, and it's really a roller coaster. But strangely, probably the only family movie you could watch where it's got that horror and comedy. And what was interesting, so this is taking place in and around Christmas, because of course, we've got the gift, the box with the Mogwai being given, but this came out in the summer in America. Just kind of fascinating, and literally head to head against Ghostbusters, of all kind of competition for your time and your wallet. But this was released in December in the UK, so it was a proper Christmas campaign at the time. Now, sadly, as is often the case, you no longer have, well, I don't think you would have had an official website in 1984. So if you try, it takes you to the Warner Brothers kind of portal with everything in. But there is a official Facebook page, Gremlins movies, sorry, on Facebook, and it seems to be reasonably well updated from time to time. Surprisingly, though, there isn't an official hashtag. I would have thought that at least someone would have claimed Gremlins or Go Gremlins, something like this, but they don't have that. But it's a most peculiar Christmas movie. I'm sure you would agree.
Oh, absolutely. And I am kind of glad, even though it was a touch before my time, it's not often that in the UK and in Europe we get the better release date. So I was quite pleased with that. I'm not quite sure what would have driven them to release that in America. Kind of in June, perhaps just a kind of slow schedule. But I believe this might even be a throwback to the days when everything was obviously clearly on film reels. And actually, they didn't like to spend a lot of money necessarily on equipment, and certainly reels specifically for the UK. So what they used to do is wait until these films had their full America release, then just ship all the reels across the UK and Europe, and then sort of, they weren't producing any extra material. There was no further costs on that. And if we think about, in comparison to how much a kind of a production company now would spend on that omnipresence of being absolutely everywhere and get everything out as soon as we can, it's just kind of worlds apart. But a bit of a throwback to kind of a bygone era for kind of releases, I think.
But you're so right. When you look at the history sometime of movies from the 80s and 90s, the release, sometimes it takes an entire year for the global audience to finally have seen the movie. Now we get to a position where it's literally at the cinema and on streaming services at the same time, on the same day around the world. I'm guessing there's both an element of piracy, kind of trying to find that out, and also a revenue generation. But for me, the memory, as always, is twofold. the secrecy around the film, because the poster itself is just art, piece of art. I'd love to have it in my cinema room, but you're back to this idea of the box is slightly open, and you got the two pose of Gizmo kind of poking out. The trailer doesn't show any of the Gremlins. You need to have gone to the movies. And therefore, I think in 1984, the campaign was able to sustain that element of secrecy. Much, much harder to do that in 2024, as we're about to discuss.
No, absolutely. I think the element of going to the cinema and being genuinely surprised by the content, the pre-spoiler era is, again, it's behind us. Because if you imagine now, if it was, the Gremlin doesn't feature on the poster, the first person to go and see it, the sort of a sneaky little smartphone picture, and then it's everywhere and everyone's seen it. But actually the suspense, or even if your friend had gone to see it and they were describing the Gremlins to you, that's only the description that you've got to go on. You've still got the opportunity to go to the cinema and see that kind of reveal for yourself and actually find out what a gremlin looks like. And I think certainly pre-internet, when there was much fewer kind of releases, actually the excitement of, there's something to find out, probably contributes hugely to the draw. And I think it was very, very smart to not have any visible Gremlins, because surely you would want the chaos of the trailer and the Gremlins running everywhere. But I feel like they captured it very, very well by giving those sort of hints and the kind of the interesting camera angles and the little bit of ear, and perhaps we see a bit of over the shoulder. Incredibly well done, and interesting, and which I think goes a long way in terms of getting those audiences through the door.
Well, let's imagine that this is at the heart of the conversation at Warner Brothers. You and I have been invited as consultants to Warner Brothers headquarters in California. We've just seen the rough cut of the movie. We've had a wonderful time and walk in a room. And why not? Let's go all the way. Steven Spielberg and co are there. Joe Dante, the writers, Chris Columbus, the music composer, Jerry Goldsmith, and we're talking to them about the social media campaign where secrecy is going to be essentially attempted. We can't stop people from taking pictures they shouldn't have. So my position when I do what I do and you do your work is to leverage, the existing assets. Let's not reinvent the wheel. So, for example, the strapline for the movie is as follows: cute, clever, mischievous, intelligent, dangerous. It's almost like the evolution of going from Gizmo to Stripe. It's Stripe, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
The main baddie one, just bizarre haircut a la Billy Idol back to the 80s. So I was thinking, we could lean on the strapline, and of course, social media is about audience engagement and participation, as you demonstrated when talking about TikTok a moment ago. So I was thinking something clever would be to ask audiences to send photos of their pet. Because ultimately, the Mogwai is a present, is a gift around Christmas as a pet. And then based on the, I suppose, a selfie of your pet, from the cat to the dog to the bird to the ferret and so on, then pick one of the adjectives above: cute, clever, mischievous, intelligent, and dangerous. And maybe download, the stickers, which will respect the typography of the term Gremlins on the poster. Or the other thing would be to almost like have a spin the wheel type app, linked to the movie. Then you send a selfie of yourself, the human, but randomly you've been chosen as being cute, clever, mischievous, intelligent, and dangerous. And then you send that to the interweb to get a reaction from friends and family. So I thought that could be one way to use a strapline to your advantage, but get audience participation to increase the visibility that this movie is about to be released in 2024.
Oh, that sounds awesome. And I think just getting audiences familiar with those kind of terms and labels, it really helps bring that strapline to life and kind of develops that kind of consciousness and narrative around it. I absolutely love that. They're so good.
So what about your suggestion? So let's move from the strapline to the poster then. This poster is just iconic, isn't it? Not similar to Ghostbusters that I was competing against in 1984. Any options with that kind of maybe on the bus stop or a billboard somewhere?
Yeah, I think you could have a lot of fun with this because the poster, it's all about that intrigue. And I think if you've got audiences that are intrigued, you can probably get them to engage and interact a little bit. So in terms of kind of poster, if we were to think about print opportunities within that, it would be so good while we've got that audience and they're desperate to peer in the box. Scan a QR code to take a peek in the box. Now, this could also be a little bit of an Easter egg. So it could either be labeled up as in terms of to find out what's in the box for you or just to take a peek. But actually, then you could have a little bit of fun with it in terms of you could have the giveaway, whether we're offering like a free ticket or perhaps even just a free little bit of merch or something fun, or hear a little gremlin snicker just to help kind of add that mystique, add that kind of engagement, and actually get you even more interested to find out what a gremlin might look like. There's loads that you could do if you have got that kind of vantage point of the poster. There could be elements of, you know, you take a selfie with it. Is there a bit where you put your hand so it looks like your hand's going in the box? Could we create a little bit of a trend where people want to rock up to these posters and have their photo taken in a certain way? That could easily be replicated to have we got something that's going on in the cinema lobby where audiences could kind of recreate a photo or, you know, engage with it, or even just in kind of, you know, shopping centers and malls and kind of, you know, those types of pop-ups that you see where you can kind of have a sit on the throne from the Game of Thrones. Someone's got the box and you can kind of put your hand in. Absolutely loads you could do with that with a certain hashtag. I think that would be a dream and so much fun for the marketing team as well as the individuals that get to engage with it.
What I like about it is this idea of being out and about. You know, for all we talk about social media, and this is about sometimes being behind a keyboard or mobile phone screen, to get your audience to be out and about. They're at the shop, they're at the bus stop, they're at the, you know, shopping center, and they participate in the marketing. I think it's amazing. So the one thing about this movie, I mean, within moments, everybody learned the instructions. You remember, like, you know, saying essentially number one, you know, keep him away from the bright light, bright light. And then number two, keep him away from water. And most important, number three, don't ever feed the mogwai after midnight. Interestingly, that became almost a joke with one of our friends who was always hungry. And you know, don't feed him after midnight and that kind of thing. So you have those instructions. People know them by heart. They even become memes and extracts on the official Warner Brothers YouTube channel. So I was thinking something you could do again is, you know, send maybe a series of photos of you and your friends actually in a bright light, maybe in water, maybe having this kind of obscene midnight feast. And then literally, you know, the winners who tell the story better get some kind of Gremlins swag bag, I'm told it's called nowadays. But then I realized, I remember many, many years ago, there was a car company that published an advert online. I'm going to say it was Honda. I could be wrong. And literally what they did on their official website saying, well, these are all the video clips of the Honda advert. Can you now reorganize the video clips and put your own music and your own narration to win a prize? So I was thinking, there is now on the official Warner Brothers website a 60-second, literally mini trailer about the three instructions, you know, the bright light, the water, and the food. So I was thinking what you could do, allow people to download the audio. I mean, there's no point pretending people can't anyway nowadays. And then ask them to literally edit and add their own video footage and submit the thought and reimagined trailer. So it's still the same audio, still the same music, but the images are very much what they made it. It could be even hand-drawn animations. It could be, you know, some kind of clay motion, that kind of things. You could really go for it. And then you submit that on the official website. There's a team from Warner Brothers that judged the entries, and you win a ticket to the premiere, maybe a studio tour, maybe you have your own mogwai sent to you. It'd be like a Grogu type, which is actually very similar in look and feel. That kind of things. But this idea of, yeah, again, leveraging what you've got, and what you've got is essentially that 60-second mini trailer.
Oh, that sounds great. And so much in that sort of like fan art kind of category, just a great opportunity to create something fun that's for something that you really like.
Absolutely. So one thing that I always forget, but I know you remind me, is of course the use of filters and stickers.
Yes, I think there's loads of fun that you could have with this. So whether we do a little bit of a gremlin dance and a challenge for something like TikTok, or whether you can kind of add some gremlin stickers, which again could be around those kind of keywords from the poster to just really create your own content and incorporate that in. I also think there's a great opportunity for some gizmo stripe or good gremlin, bad gremlin memes that you can create about yourself, because we all have that better day and that worst day. So I think there's loads of fun things that you could do around the type of content that people might be producing anyway. So can we get a Gremlins presence into Reels? Can we get a Gremlins presence into kind of TikTok? Can we get the filters out there? Once the film has been out for a little while, and perhaps something around like a streaming release, if we assuming that we didn't stream right away, and actually more people have seen Gremlins at the cinema, we are still keeping the Gremlins under wraps for that cinematic release. But once, by the time it's at that kind of home cinema kind of system, perhaps we could even launch full-on gremlin face filters for your Snapchats, where you have lovely gizmo vibes, and then perhaps you open your mouth to eat something after midnight and suddenly you've gone full stripe. I think would be very, very fun. And I think actually you and I should just code this up and make it anywhere, Pascal, because I want that.
I think that's spot on. And you're right. So the after moment, so the movie's been out for a few weeks, a few months. It's out. One thing that is delightful about watching Gremlins are all the Easter eggs. Literally, if you're a child of the 80s, even the late 80s, and suddenly you watch this movie, everywhere, whether that's on the bedroom wall of Billy's, you see posters of movies like Twilight Zone, directed by Steven Spielberg. When they go walking around the town, there's objects. Even when Billy's father is at the convention, you see things in the background from movies. So it's like a movie fan, a kind of 𝗏𝗏𝗏. So I was thinking that maybe there's something in there about spot the Easter eggs, where you could go maybe on the official website, list them in a way that I can't quite imagine, because you want to give it away, so you have to enter what you've seen, and then if you found and spotted all the Easter eggs, once again, get prizes, get mentioned on the socials, and maybe get a voicemail message from 𝗁𝗏𝗏 himself.
Oh, how cool would that be?
So listen, I don't know about you, but I reckon once again we should get the job.
Yeah, for sure. Let's just do it anyway. They can't stop us.
So I think the exec Warner Brothers and Steven, if we couldn't use the first name, I mean, we've not met him. I think I would still say Mr. Spielberg if I was to meet him one day. And 𝗁𝗏𝗏𝗏 and all the others should quite impressed with, essentially this idea of a social media campaign, which would run parallel to, the trailer campaign. So we're going to have obviously the full version, the 60-second, the 30-second TV, radio, TikTok spots. As you mentioned, we'll have obviously all manner of merchandise and partnership with others. But I think for me, this is how you leverage, social, by really using your imagination, but building on what you've got. You've got the strapline for your business, you've got the images for your business, you've got video content for your business, and so on. And you want to get the value out of that, as opposed to forever looking for the next bit of content. What do you think?
Completely. It reiterates and it adds value. It also, if we are kind of reinforcing those messages that audiences might know that we do already, but it's not at the top of their mind, actually by giving them a bit of information that they know, they get to feel smart. They know that, they're like, oh, I know that already, but I know a little bit more now. I've appreciated it from a different angle, or it's a little bit deeper. So I actually think putting effort into maintaining those connections through the things that are already associated with your brand can just really, really help strengthen that and make those relationships with your audiences much more long term. Also gives you scope to reframe things and keep things fun and keep them fresh, because that's what will capture your audience. And don't be afraid to share a little secret with your biggest fans, because they're the ones that are going to appreciate it most. So having a few little just tie-ins and nice nods and things that within your industry, within your sector, within your audiences, they're going to really, really appreciate it. It just helps to reinforce those relationships. And that's all that marketing is really about. It's building relationships with your audiences and nurturing the ones that you've got out there.
It's interesting, just to close on that, the term relationships. So I was mentioning that in the show that I've been doing a workshop on, CRM system, which I now call Conversations and Relationships Management System. And there was a wonderful statement from one of the platforms saying, it's not a customer journey to a purchase, it's the customer journey to a relationship. And we've been waiting, many of us work in marketing and sales, for a solution, and it appeared in the early 2000s in the shape of social networks. And yeah, there's been highs and lows, but in general, the intention for all brands and individuals is to have those conversations that feel like, you are taking great pleasure in being seen and heard, being helpful to your audience, and then eventually leading to then discovering your product and services and enjoying the way you look after them. This has been immense fun. Thank you again, Natalie, for all the research and contribution that you've done so far. Everyone, let us know about your suggestions, your news, your raves and rants about social networks, and we'll give you a shout out at the next episode. For now, go out there and make sure your social media is faster and better. I was Pascal and Natalie, and she was Natalie 𝗍𝗍. Bye for now.